live and online. It's Sleepless with Steve and the Movie Book Club with your host, Steve Pulaski.
Back and better than ever, Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube on this Wednesday evening. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Central Time, right here on my YouTube channel, coast to coast, border to border. Good to be with you. Yours truly, Steve Pulaski, joined as always by my two inimitable comrades, Dominic Guanzon in the blue polo, Joe Viso, repping the Stanley Cup champion Chicago Blackhawks, who look anything but Stanley Cup champions within the first few games of the NHL
you have that
season.
right. Oh my God, the Bulls are looking great though. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. The Bulls have all the makings of a team that will get blown out the first round of the playoffs, and hopefully a star will want to come here next year. They do. I'm not trying to.
No.
Over here.
You're absolutely right. My dad and I said the same thing. We'll make it to the playoffs. And probably not past the first, round.
But I mean, it shows you how bad they've been for so long when that's grounds for excitement and stuff. And we got to deal with LeVar Ball now too, which I'm not thrilled about. But anyway, we come to you live and in living color, Sleepless with Steve. Very sleepless today, I'll tell you right now. It's Sleepless with Steve. It was a late night taking care of a lot of different personal things. So I'm running on like 4 hours of sleep over here.
Oh, dude, same.
Twinning over here. It is literally Sleepless with Steve, just like I told my co-host on the radio today. I said, living up to the title of this, I haven't been this sleep deprived since the show was on 89.1 FM. But moreover, though, we got a good show planned for y'all today. We got two topics, kind of a continuation of last week in terms of where the IATSE labor agreement /strike sits. Dominic will start us off on that in a few moments. And then we are also reviewing Halloween Kills. We're reviewing that. It's in theaters. It's on Peacock. Got a lot to say about that movie. Very divisive movie, to say the least. I'm interested to hear where you guys stand on it. But first and foremost, though, Dom, how was your week?
Week was good. Went down to St. Louis and saw some friends. Although this morning I took the flu shot, which is good. Go get your flu shot. Unfortunately, that means I am feeling a little fatigued. Downside of my job is that I don't really have time to get sick, as opposed to maybe some other jobs. But
Same here.
So we'll see as the show progresses tonight how I'll be doing. But overall, good weekend. Good to see some friends. That was actually our first trip since the pandemic. That was our very first. I think so. That's at least the trip that we planned for, and the trip that we had prepared to take, a cross-country trip, a road trip, I should say, down to St. Louis, Missouri.
Very nice. I mean, I got my flu shot on Saturday. I generally don't have, outside of a sore arm, many side effects from it. Which is, I was gonna say, you got a little fatigue going there.
Yeah, fatigue and some muscle soreness, like all over my body. My reaction to the COVID shot, particularly the second one, was really bad. Nothing fatal, of course, or nothing. Well, obviously not fatal, but nothing threatening or anything. But it did knock me out for a day. I was not feeling it. It felt bad, but it was all worth it in the end. Go get your shot, and you can be a fellow sheep like me. You can be magnetic.
And me too. Like I said, I got mine on Saturday. It was a very nice 5 minutes in and out of the pharmacist. Moreover, Joe, how are you doing?
I am doing pretty damn good. Black Friday deals are starting for some reason, so I've taken advantage of that. I have picked myself up every Spider-Man movie to get ready for No Way Home because they were all on sale for $30.
My God.
And I hate the box art of all of these, but
those cover arts suck, but you can't pass up that deal.
To have the Sam Raimi trilogy as well as the Tom Holland films, I was like, hell yeah. And then you got Andrew Garfield in there. But more importantly too, I also got a new Chromebook because my Surface laptop is from 2014. And anytime I take it to work or I take it to take notes in any classes for stuff, the thing takes about an hour to boot up now. So I picked up a Chromebook. They're on sale right now at Best Buy. We're not sponsored by them, but I figure if anybody needs a new laptop, Chromebooks at Best Buy are $99 right now. I only had to pay $103 with tax or $105 with tax, somewhere around there.
Millions of school children are going, I never want to hear the words Chrome and book together in a sentence ever again.
Yeah, we never, I don't know, I can't speak for you two, but I never had to deal with those. That actually came in college or in high school, like after I graduated, like a year or two after Chromebooks kind of became a standard at my high school. I've never used one.
I think
I'd never used one.
Especially with last year too, a bunch of kids, like Dom is saying, it's just like, ugh, Chromebooks, no. I don't want to stay home and do school.
I was gonna say they're probably they probably got a very bad connotation now.
I also,
with the pandemic.
As I said, like I'm a big James Bond fan, so the next thing I'm trying to scout out right now is a complete collection of that without No Time to Die, and I'll just pick that up once that comes out. That's my next like big like movie. I'm basically starting to build my movie collection back up again. I stopped for like the longest time.
I remember when they came out with that big Bond set that I think went up to Quantum of Solace, I want to say, or
too.
Skyfall.
It was Skyfall.
The one with like boxes within boxes and such, and then it had like a place in the actual thing for Quantum of Solace.
Yeah.
Because it wasn't out yet. It wasn't. I don't think it was in theaters. But you remember that set? That's
I have
the Bond
a
set
Fast
I
and
always
Furious one, but unfortunately one of my friends was borrowing it so they can catch up to watch F9 in theaters when they came to come see it with all of us. And I still haven't gotten it back from them. But I have a Fast and Furious one that did the exact same thing, but has a spot for Fast and Furious 8.
It's always funny when they do that. It's always really funny when they do that, because I know there's also that celebrating 50 years set, I want to say too. Yeah. I think looking at it briefly, what I'm thinking of is the Ultimate Edition.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking of, the 007 Ultimate Edition, which actually commands decent money on eBay, just from a quick look right there. So the more you know. But moreover, moving forward, we got to talk and touch base about IATSE. Again, we were talking about it last week, the International Alliance of Theatrical Stage Employees, also known as IATSE or IATSE. They are a group that spans 12 districts, including Canada, and they had a CBA dispute. These are always fun if you know, obviously, Hollywood, if you know sports leagues and everything. CBAs, collective bargaining agreements, super important for the rights of workers and labor groups and things like that. So with the contract coming due, there was a good beef between them, namely them, and the Alliance of Motion Picture and TV Producers. Okay, there's a lot of acronyms here. There's a lot of alphabet soup organizations that I'm really trying to keep straight with this thing. But it was going to be a strike situation on, was it the 18th? I want to say, was it the 18th?
It was Monday, this past Monday, so the 18th. Correct.
It's going to be this past Monday at 12:01 a.m. if a collective bargaining agreement or at least a tentative agreement was not in place. And yeah, they came up with something. I don't know if everybody loves it. I don't know if everybody's on board with it from what I've been reading, but they came up with something that's kind of halted the pressure of a strike, at least in the immediate future. Dominic, he's a little bit more of an expert on this. He's more well-read than myself on this. I'm turning it over to you, D, to further contextualize this.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I do have friends and family as members of IATSE, according to them, because they're all from Chicagoland. But in any case, yeah, so some of the details, I don't think the full details have been, the full thing, probably for legalese, has been released yet. But this article from Deadline does give us a glance at some of the key things here. For instance, increased wages for episodic productions. And you can see that there's tiers and stuff like that. It's welcome to the world of union work, where everything's kind of codified and everything's kind of in a neat little box. But that's how you make sure you don't get screwed over. Otherwise, you get those corner cases, and suddenly you find yourself working a lot more than you should for a lot less. But in any case, increased wages for miniseries, increased wages for long form streaming. That was a big thing, because obviously in the past several years, decade, you could easily say, streaming has become a gargantuan thing, a tour de force in the world of how we consume media, period. And the pandemic put that into the stratosphere, made it apparent to everybody. So the fact that they were able to get some codified benefits, some increased benefits for for streaming is good in my opinion, because some classifications will receive increases of up to 30% of wages. Like these are significant, particularly if you're working some of the crazy hours. You could easily say Amazon level hours that some of these folks were working. Maybe not so much, because the words union and Amazon aren't even in the same continent, but at least not for
these
now.
schedules were nuts if you've looked into these.
Yeah, exactly. I think another one was the big downtime between work. So before it was you need 12 hours between when you can work for long periods of time. We're talking more than 8 hours, 14 hours. So being able to codify that and say, hey, if our guys are working 14 hours a week, they cannot work for another 12 to 14 hours, because that's like nurse level hours, which for the record should not be nurse level hours. We need more nurses and they need more representation, but that's beside the point. But yeah, it can get pretty intense. So these things, and there's a lot of IATSE members, some hot reactions on social media for now that are saying, oh, it's not enough. We need to strike now. But that's all really politics. So that's up for the IATSE leadership, which apparently Matthew Loeb has called it a quote Hollywood ending. I don't know if in 2021 that's the right verbiage you want to use, but it does seem to be good. Again, it's down to the legalese. In the days and hours before a strike, there can be a lot of shiftiness. There can be a lot of bait and switch. There can be a lot of like, haha, we snuck this point in here that negates like the last 12 pages or something like that. You see it all the time in national politics, local politics. You'll definitely see it in union politics as well, in negotiations. But it does look like, from what we're seeing now, is that this is going to hold, and that the strike will not happen, which again, hot takes on social media. It's like, God damn it. I really wanted to sing some Pete Seeger out on the Hollywood and Vine while holding up a sign for 12 hours in the rain, like that Kellogg, like that Chad, the Kellogg's striker who in a torrent, he was holding up a sign alone. It's like, good for you.
Yeah, I did see that image in the torrential like downpour.
Yeah. But you know what? The truth is that no one really wants to strike, because it's a lot of work. It's a lot of economic risk for personal reasons. Thankfully, there's a lot of IATSE subsidies and a lot of other things that can help people along. But no one really wants to strike. They do want to work. It's just for good wages and good conditions. So at least in the immediate that we are seeing now, things do seem to be looking up, and it has demonstrated the power of organized labor, which has seen a spike since the pandemic, not just in entertainment, which, as we mentioned before on the show, entertainment, particularly Hollywood, is one of the strongest unions because it's front facing. It's literally the industry that delivers you everything you see on TV, the big screen, and now these days on computer screens as well, with streaming and whatnot. In fact, just to demonstrate how deep this can go, it's not just movies and TV, but this could have gone, but theater as well, art galleries. When I was down in St. Louis with my girlfriend the other day, and just a few days ago, we were gonna go to a Van Gogh exhibit down by a mall in the St. Louis area, but we found out that those gallery workers were IATSE members, and if we had gone in, that would have been considered crossing the picket line, and rightfully so, because that gallery, apparently, according to IATSE, had brought in Canadian non-union workers from Canada down to St. Louis. So, you talk about how everything's so codified, everything's such this specific thing. Yeah, well, it goes both ways too. Nickel and dime you. That's what these rich, super rich people will want to do to you for every single cent and drop of sweat and blood that you're worth. So we will see how things, how the dust settles. We'll see how the cement dries. But it does seem like that things have come to a Hollywood ending. I would say a more a cleaner ending for now. But keep in mind, things can easily get messy if any one of these studios, any one of these companies turns their back or break deals or find some sort of loophole. Because no matter how many eyes you look at it, there's always some loophole and there's always some judge willing to, you never know, willing to really break it apart. So we'll keep our eyes on it because this is really historic. I know the strike didn't go through, but this is historic. 150,000 members. That's actually not that big compared to some other unions, but it is certainly one of the strongest, some of the most potent that you will see in America today.
And it would have had utterly devastating impacts, even if it just lasted a couple of days.
The Writers Guild strike would have been that was big, and that would have been peanuts compared to what this could have been.
Compared to this. Yeah, and there's a tweet I actually saw. I should have sent it to Joe so he could flash it on the screen, but I'll just read it really quickly because Dom summed this up really nicely and succinctly enough that I almost don't have anything to add. But John Rogers, he's a writer for a few different shows and whatnot, The Librarians, Jackie Chan Adventures, and a handful of things. He came out and tweeted because there's a lot of things. There's a lot of organizations or a lot of companies striking at this time. And he came out with something that's, honestly, kind of gobsmacking in a way when you just read it like this. He said, from IATSE to John Deere to Kellogg to Instacart, it's amazing how many of these labor actions are not asking industries that are making record profits to share those greater profits, but increase pay just enough or cut hours enough so the workers can live.
It's record profits in a pandemic. And yet you're seeing the ceiling of our quality of life, some for whatever reason lowering, not obviously because of the pandemic, but just in terms of our work isolated from the pandemic, it's incredible. So we will see how this goes. Part of me would have been very curious to see how extensive it would have been. We can only speculate, although again, who knows? These contracts, they apparently they're lasting for 3 years, at least with some of the yearly salary wages, but you never know. These contracts, well, again, we'll have to mull over some of the exact verbiage and details. I love Hollywood Reporter because they literally have a section, Hollywood Reporter, right? They have a section on their website dedicated to legal matters concerning Hollywood, which is so good because everyone loves to talk Marvel, everyone loves to talk James Bond, like us here, but the real stuff that matters, other than box office numbers and which director is getting in a Twitter fight with who, these are the things that really, really can affect how you consume media at all.
Oh man,
really, really well done, really well articulated. Really well articulated there, Dom. So appreciate you talking about that. You kind of like I said, you're connected to this story to begin with too, so you can offer up that insight as well. I suppose we'll march forward then. I think this might even be, I don't want to jinx it, this might even be a quicker show than normal. Not that I'm rooting to spend less time with you gentlemen, but we can move forward and talk about Halloween Kills. The new David Gordon Green sequel to the 2018 Halloween movie, which is in itself a sequel to 1978, the 1978 original. Now, of all the horror franchises, the big ones, at least the major ones, I'm talking Nightmare on Elm Street, I'm talking Friday the 13th. I don't know if I want to throw Child's Play in there, but I'll throw in Halloween. Let's talk the big three tenets over here: Halloween, Friday the 13th, and Elm Street. I think I'm going to marathon them and review and re-review them, some of them next year, all the Halloween movies, because I want to say I've seen all but like one or two of the sequels, or the remakes or what have you. And it's like Halloween, I think, has the weakest of the sequels of those three franchises.
Okay.
Friday the 13th had Jason Takes Manhattan Part 8, which I think is very good. Final chapter with Crispin Glover, Corey Feldman, and a few really good moments to it. Nightmare on Elm Street, I believe it's Dream Warriors Dream Warriors, I think, is better than the original in some aspects. I would go that far. We obviously have Wes Craven's New Nightmare too. of that in that franchise, which is so damn good, you know. And then you have the second movie, which is really, the subtextually speaking, is got a lot of you know, sort of themes about homosexuality too. I just find the sequels to these franchises more noteworthy than the Halloween sequels. And it says something that I think my favorite Halloween sequel is Halloween 3 Season of the Witch, which famously doesn't have Michael Myers in it.
I was about to say, I'm like, are you going to mention that 3 is the best of those sequels? Because it's true. I mean...
Season of the Witch is a damn decent movie, man. I'm not saying it's high art, and I'm not saying it shouldn't have just come out when it came out and being called Season of the Witch. But at the end of the day, though, like, it's honestly a pretty good movie. I could totally understand hating it back then. I probably would have been one of those critics that hated it back in its initial release. But after, you know, the revision has been very kind to that movie, deservedly so. Yeah. And then there's Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, with the famous producer cut of the film. So, like, the Halloween franchise has been all over the damn place. And I don't even think I've ever seen H2O even, too. I don't think I've ever even seen that one. But anyway, here arrives Halloween Kills. Again, the sequel to the 2018 film, which is a sequel to 1978. And this movie's been super divisive, and I just want to come out and start the review with this for those who haven't seen it yet, which is not very many people, in my opinion, yet. This movie is really sensory overload from the first frame. I don't even think the Rob Zombie movies, the reboots, Halloween and H2, I don't even think those movies were that as emotionally stirring, and maybe not even as sadistically brutal in their just bloodshed and gruesomeness than this movie. Maybe the first 20 minutes of Zombie's first Halloween movie, but not as a whole. This movie, right off the bat, the thing that I like about this movie, and I've been kinder to this movie in my review than a lot of people, but I really like how this movie doesn't settle for cheap fan service right off the cuff. David Gordon Green, Danny McBride, and Scott Teems, the writers, aren't really interested in just cheap fan service. They want to do something with this story. They want to do something with its characters. And they do it, and they overdo it in this movie in some aspects. But man, like, just a forewarning, this has got to be one of the bloodiest slasher movies to be a mainstream American slasher movie to be released in quite some time.
Okay, so it wasn't just my virgin ears.
No, this thing is brutal.
Or my ears, my eyes.
I was worried for Dom's sake, because Dom famously does not love horror movies. I was worried watching this about halfway through. I'm like, Dom's gonna hurl, man. This thing is sick.
I've seen gore. I watch a lot of war movies, so I've seen some shit. No, but yeah, I actually enjoyed this. I think I'm actually gonna enjoy this a bit more than possibly you guys even. We'll see.
Oh man, finally, Halloween Kills needs a good defense attorney over here. What you say, Joe?
No, I was gonna say this is one of those horror movies, and we'll see why I line up too with you guys. But this is one of those horror movies I was so glad to see in theaters, because people's reactions to each kill was just a ton of fun. It just added to the experience. Just hearing people go, oh, there was. I hate doing this in a movie theater. I hate to have this like loud and noticeable reaction, but there was legit a kill in this movie. It was gory, and how it happened just made me go out loud in the theater, and I actually spat out my drink. I did a spit take to a kill, because I didn't expect it to be that brutally and like kind of funny too. And the three people around me looked at me and laughed along with me at my reaction and everything. It was just a grand old time watching Michael Myers just brutally do this with people like in the theater, either squirming like oh, or like laughing about like how like brutal it was.
I can attest this was a fun theater experience, and then you tie all of this together with like some light, I wouldn't say earth-shattering, but light commentary on the harm of mob mentality.
Yeah.
Which is really what this touches on. I mean, don't forget, it's hard to believe, but this is the year of the Capitol insurrection. Still the year of the Capitol insurrection. It's and cool. Then they add on.
I was gonna say it's cool that they brought another aspect into the sequel of this, because The one thing I love about the 2018 version is how much they focus on Laurie's PTSD since the 78 film. And I felt like, okay, with the 2018 film, you did that. What are you going to do with this one now? And actually having like a mob mentality where it's not Laurie's PTSD anymore. It's actually the town. Survivors of that night from 78, people who remembered it, and people who are scared of that ever happening again, that they were never born or anything, and they're just afraid of it ever happening. It's not played with that much in the film, which was kind of sad. At least for me, it wasn't. But the way it's used, there's one scene, it takes place in a hospital where like everybody, all the characters are in one spot, and it just explodes. And I thought like, okay, it was at least very effective in that scene. I wish they played around with it a bit more, but like they at least had a really great scene to like cap off like that whole idea of the mob mentality with this horror film.
I don't watch a lot of horror movies, obviously. It's the last time I'll say that, because otherwise I'll be saying it all night. But I do know the tropes of the genre, particularly for one as legendary as this, or one with such legendary roots, which is the slasher film, right? Person with sharp object wants to kill, usually a woman, usually out by themselves through the night, something like that. Something, it's the classic slasher setup. I think the twist of bringing it out into a space where there are so many people, you're not alone anymore. There are moments of that, obviously. There's moments of being alone, being scared, being claustrophobic. But my goodness, claustrophobia in a crowd when you're dealing with a slasher, I think that's such a cool way to shake up the formula, because you would think there's safety in numbers, right? Mm-hmm. That's like a big part of so many of I would think would be a big part of this trope, which is that, usually the killer or the monster or whatever gets away as soon as the squad car full of cops arrives or the townspeople arrive, and then it goes into the night and becomes legend.
It's usually like when the police show up at the end of a horror film, like they did in the original Halloween. It's like, okay, that's it, they're safe now. And it's like this one's just like, nope.
The cops of
like literally this movie opens up with him killing a ton of first responders.
The cops of Haddonfield are made to look like buffoons, throughout the last several years, and it shows.
And it's not, I don't want to sympathize too much with cops, but like the fact that the whole town is just acting stupid to a good degree too. Some of it is natural reaction, I get, but like I actually love. Not that it's a very deep character, but I love Omar Dorsey as Sheriff Baker, the guy with the cowboy hat, who's like, oh my God, this town's freaking insane. Like this dude shows up again. They've been talking about him for 40 years. Now he's here again. Everyone's gone nuts.
He's honestly, and it's not his fault, but you know what? That's the one thing I keep waiting for them to do something with his character.
Yeah.
I keep waiting for them to do something. I know you haven't seen the first Halloween from 2018, Dom, like I kept thinking, I'm like, are they gonna bring him in here? And they still haven't. And I'm thinking, I'm like, well, you better do something with him with this third movie.
No, I guarantee
he's taking up space.
I guarantee you, when Halloween ends, because they confirmed there's gonna be a time jump. I guarantee you he's not gonna be in it. It's gonna be like he retired as a sheriff or something, and like he just gave up and moved away.
Dude,
and there's a new sheriff.
The original,
and that disappoints me because I like him.
Yeah,
very brief
he's
moments
great.
we
The
get,
scenes
I
that
like
he's
him.
in, he's great.
He's so helpless too, despite having the badge, which is just so funny in this instance. But how many people were murdered in the original 71 Halloween or 70 whatever Halloween? 4 people.
4.
How many people were killed in the 2018 Halloween reboot?
Probably double 8. I would say
probably
8.
I would say probably 8 or 9.
Yeah.
The body count in this one is like the dozens. This is like this would be like a national incident.
This might have the body count of like half of the Halloween movies combined.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You got to think like it probably beats 1 and 2 in the opening minute when it comes to the slaughterhouse in front of Laurie's compound with the first responders.
Yeah,
I mean,
which by the way, like I love how the movie wasted no time going, oh, there's a dude who's like half burnt and he's got a knife with a mask on. All the firefighters like, okay, you got access? Yeah, I got access. There's like no hesitation. Like immediately they start trying to fight this dude.
I know. I was so glad none of them went, sir, are you okay? All of them knew, no. Oh yeah, this guy's going to fight us.
It's wild. And then the other, it's one of the things I love about this. And maybe I should say this for after the break, but like the other thing that I like, and there's a lot of things I like about this movie, which is kind of amazes me why critics are so harsh on this thing. My God, Anthony Michael Hall treated this as his like dramatic acting comeback.
Hell
Anthony
yeah.
Michael Hall, of course, Brian from The Breakfast Club. That's who he's most famous for. My God, Anthony Michael Hall acts his ass off in this thing. And it's so fun to see. Like, it really is. Because when I first saw that he was in this, I'm like, what are they going to have him do? He's going to be dead within the first 20 minutes. Nah, man, he's not only in it for much of it, but he's damn good. Like, he was the
personification of that town's trauma sergeant.
Basically, of this movie. He's the Laurie Strode
essentially,
of this movie
he
because
is.
I mean, I don't want to ruin this for people, but if you're going into this, I'm going to tell you this right now. If you're going to this movie expecting Laurie Strode to be in this movie, you are going to be very disappointed. She's in it. She's in it for, like, she's in the movie. She's just not doing anything. Let me tell you this.
I think that's cool.
No, it is. Anytime you get a sequel to a movie, and I just want to build people's expectations, because two of my friends were really disappointed by this. The minute a main character goes into a hospital in a sequel to a movie, just expect them to stay in that hospital for the rest of the movie. Like, that's typically what happens to those characters.
Well, you want to talk about, we always talk about idiot horror movie characters. Like, that's one of the smarter moves to do, quite frankly.
Yeah.
Anybody, like, here's the thing. Like, when it comes to Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, she's not really in it. But you know what? I just rewatched the 2018 Halloween movie last week. That was the intently focused around her.
Oh, yeah.
That was anybody who's disappointed by this needs to go rewatch the 2018 movie. And she's not absent from this. I would say, what is this? What is this movie? An hour and 40 minutes or so? I would say she's probably got maybe 20, 25 minutes of screen time, maybe.
She is in every act of this movie, and she's the one the camera ends on at the end of the movie, because we all know, like, yeah, when the next movie called Halloween ends, it's got to end with Laurie Strode and Michael Myers finally squashing this, like, 40-year-long beef. And I swear to God, if she doesn't get the job done, I don't know who will.
If she doesn't drop a diss track, I don't know who will. You know, if she doesn't drop a remix of Drake's Back to Back, then what are we doing here? But, you know, in her long battle with Michael Myers. But it's been awesome to see Jamie Lee Curtis not only come back but embrace the hell out of these movies.
Yeah.
It's been awesome to see her, because I remember we were like 8, 9 years old when she was going to retire after the illustrious family comedy Christmas with the Cranks. If you remember that. And I mean, to her credit, though, she kind of kept her promise, because I don't think she acted after that until You Again, I want to say. That movie she was in.
Again, whatever it was. I forgot.
No, that was like 2010, I want to say. That was a little earlier.
Yeah.
That was like, but it was like 6 years after the Cranks movie or whatever. And like, you know, it was kind of disappointing that, like, I remember even thinking as a kid, like, really, Jamie Lee Curtis is going to end with this awful Tim Allen Christmas movie that's the second worst Christmas movie I ever watched, behind Surviving Christmas with Ben Affleck.
She's been in a couple features, on average, like 2 or 3 a year. Not 2 or 3 a year. I'm sorry.
She's a lot
one
more,
every 2 to 3 years.
She's a lot more selective on what she wants to be in now, which I think is great, because everything that she's been in since she's came back, I've thoroughly enjoyed her performance in the 2018 Halloween. I loved her character in Knives Out. I thought she was a great addition to that cast. And even here, I can't wait to see how it all concludes in 2018. And, I mean, I'm a big fan of this game, but she's going to be playing the character of Tannis in the Borderlands movie adaptation. And if you know who that character is, that's a perfect pick.
She was also in the really well-made, underrated, and by I mean underrated, I mean like nobody's seen the movie Spare Parts. With George Lopez produced it. It's a really good Lionsgate movie about robot fighting. She's the principal in that movie. Spare Parts, I was one of, I think, 5 people to see that in theaters opening weekend about 6 years ago. But we're coming up on the break. So I think we should take it here. We'll come back, regroup, continue on about Halloween Kills, because there's a handful more things I want to talk about. And when I come back, I also want to bring up and sing the praises of Mr. David Gordon Green. A director that more people should know by name. I want to talk a little bit about him coming up soon too, and obviously Dom and Joe. I know these men got more opinions too to share with you about Halloween Kills. So we will come back in just a couple of short minutes. Keep it here at Sleepless with Steve. We come to you live and in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time. Back in a couple of minutes, live on YouTube. Back and better than ever. Sleepless with Steve, live on YouTube. Come to you live in living color every Wednesday evening, 6:30 Central Time. And today with a review of Halloween Kills, a movie I liked a lot. And it sounds like my illustrious co-host liked it a lot as well. So that's good. Minimal beef. Now, first things first, I want to say, right alongside Richard Linklater as a director, there are not many directors that consistently tackle different movies and have a higher batting average of success than Richard Linklater and David Gordon Green. David Gordon Green has had a very interesting career, and he's a young guy. He's only 46. This guy his career started all the way back in 2000 with a really good movie by the name, it's an independent movie. It's called George Washington. Really good, sad, but fascinating drama. It's been years since I've seen it. I remember loving it. I need to go back and see it again. He did a handful more independent movies with the likes of like Paul Schneider. Zoe Deschanel was actually in his second movie, All the Real Girls. And then he went on to do his big break was in 2008 when he directed the stoner comedy Pineapple Express. He linked up with Danny McBride. With Danny McBride, and they've really been friends ever since. He kind of had a downtrodden cycle in 2011 when it was funny, and then I say all this. 2011, David Gordon Green, both of the movies he made in 2011 ended up top 5 worst of the year list for me that year. It was Your Highness with Danny McBride and The Sitter. Yeah,
I hate The Sitter.
The Sitter still only has one laugh out loud moment in it. One laugh out loud moment, that is it. With Jonah Hill. But then he came back and he hit a triple. He hit a trifecta, I should say, rather. He did Prince Avalanche with Paul Rudd and Emile Hirsch. Great film. Joe with Nicolas Cage. Great film. Manglehorn with Al Pacino. Really good movie, like 6 people have seen.
Is that the piano one?
That's the guy with the locksmith.
Oh, okay, never mind.
That's the guy with he's a locksmith, and Harmony Korine's in it as well.
Yeah.
So good. But anyway, what I'm getting at, though, he also did Our Brand is Crisis with Sandra Bullock, which wasn't great. And then he did the Boston Marathon bombing drama called Stronger with Jake Gyllenhaal, about the guy who lost his legs in the Boston Marathon bombing.
Yeah.
But moral of the story is, now he's dabbled into horror. David Gordon Green is damn good. Like, damn Gordon Green. He's good, man. Like he's DGG, man. He's been hitting home runs for years now, and it's cool to see that like horror. He approaches it not with a flavor of the month type of deal, but he definitely has done his homework on this franchise. And Danny McBride clearly serves as a good writing partner for him.
He to me is somebody that I think really can get good performances out of people. Like he especially with his TV shows, Eastbound and Down and Vice Principals, where like everybody who comes on that show, I feel like gives a great performance. And I really do think it's to David Gordon Green, because that movie Joe to me is one of Nicolas Cage's best performances in years. That's a great film if you're a big Nick Cage fan. And what he's done with horror, especially with the 2018 Halloween, it's made me go, well, like the guy is at least taking like a really cool aspect to horror films, the PTSD, the mob mentality. I can't wait to see what it's going to be in Halloween Ends. So much so I can't wait to see him. He's going to direct the Exorcist movie that we're going to be getting, the one that's a direct sequel to the original 1973 film, and then he's directing the Hellraiser TV show.
So this guy now, he's done well enough with horror, man. That's kind of like now his grab now. After years of comedy.
Dude, honestly, if he becomes like a John Carpenter of like horror films now, where it's just like, hey, he just had to get his big break again with, Halloween, and just from here on out, he's just making he's like a new master of horror, basically. I will be so happy for him, because I really do enjoy the 2018 film, and what he's done.
I hope, quite honestly, that now I hope that because I have a hard time believing Halloween Ends won't be a financial success. I have a hard time believing another Exorcist movie won't be a financial success, and a Hellraiser TV series, I think for all intents and purposes, will have its following, especially given the fact that Chucky now 2 weeks in a row, we just had episode 2 last week, has been trending on Twitter. So I have no reason to believe that these won't be successes. The one thing I do hope, though, is that this pushes Gordon Green, this pushes DGG to do an original horror movie.
Yes.
Because now he's picking up franchises. He's got 3 franchises now that he's carrying by himself. I hope with these movies he gets the money, the clout, and the power to make something of his own.
Blumhouse definitely loves him, because these are big money makers. This one and the last one were big money makers for Blumhouse, and we know how Blumhouse is when it comes to producing films. They like to spend little but make a lot.
Jason Blum is dope.
They have actually, I think they have 2 films with him signed on right now that are untitled right now. And John Carpenter is also attached to one of them. So I'm hoping that is his original horror film break right there.
Fingers crossed. Dom, what say you about anything? You can go off of this conversation. You can pivot to something else about Halloween Kills. What say you?
I just want to laud Danny McBride for, despite being that guy in every Seth Rogen movie. Did I say that right? I'm confusing it with Joe Rogan for some reason. But being that guy in every one of those kinds of comedy films, the Brat Pack, he's shown that he's actually good at making stuff.
Yeah.
And I think it really, but still having that quirk, that funny, kind of that comedic and almost slapstick quirk, which obviously works really well for horror, particularly slasher, I would think. And how it manifests in Halloween is so brutal, but honestly, so many times so funny. Like, my God, there's an execution involving a gun that I did not see coming, and that to me was like, dude, that caught me so off guard. I had to pause the film. And it's like, that's good. That's pretty funny.
That execution is the one that made me have the biggest laugh in the theater. It was when I was talking about earlier.
It was timed really well. I kudos to the director for that. But I like to think Dan McBride his DNA is all over this for sure. And dude, do you want to talk some negatives here, because I think we're hyping it up a lot. I'll let Joe go first.
I hate to say because Dom's been saying, Steve has been saying, man, it's great that we're all in agreement about how good this is and everything. It's not that I didn't hate this movie. I probably don't like it as much as you guys did, though. And it mainly came down to, other than Tommy Doyle's character, there's really nobody else in this movie I cared about or really gave a damn about when they died or anything. And it's really due to the script in this movie, because everybody in this film gives the exact same speech, and even Tommy Doyle does. But like Anthony Michael Hall just like I think brought like so much into that role, like Steve was saying. Everybody in this movie I feel like gives the same exact speech about how 40 years ago Michael Myers came to this town and he killed so many people and evil must die tonight. Every character says that, and it gets really annoying like throughout the entire film. The only like time you get a break from it is when Michael Myers comes around and he ends up killing that person that just gave that speech. They don't do any like a few of the characters from the first film return. Allison, as well as oh my god, I forgot the name of
Judy Greer.
Judy Greer, yeah. Karen, there we go. Yeah, how can I forget that name? Because she's literally
the most
Karen.
Judy Greer name you can think of.
The most Judy Greer name on the planet, man.
Allison and Karen return. Karen's a bit more likable in this film. Allison, they don't really do anything with her again in this movie other than she wants to kill Michael Myers because Michael Myers killed her dad at the end of 2018, Halloween. And it's just like, I would have loved to see them expand on maybe this relationship some more now that like Laurie was proven right. Like, hey, like this guy, he still exists. He's still a threat and everything. And it's like they kind of do that with Karen and Laurie for a short period of time in like some of the hospital scenes. But again, it's never really fully utilized, just like the mob stuff. And I feel like, man, we could have cut down so many times, so many flashbacks in this movie too, where like they're just trying to relive what happened 40 years ago and talk about what happened 40 years ago. We could have done a little bit more character like development and had some more touching scenes, because I thought that's what the 2018 one did best, was actually really making Laurie a very sympathetic like character. Like you felt sorry for her, that no one's believing her from the trauma that she experienced, because we all know how terrible that situation was for her and like how terrible it can get. So it really sucks that like damn, like in that aspect they kind of did drop the ball there, where I felt like in the 2018 one they found a good balance of having the slasher kills and this drama. That being said, at least in the slasher department, they did not again. Like I mean, we've been talking about it throughout the review, but yeah, the slasher department in this movie does not let up.
This movie does the good job of raising the stakes as a sequel.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it does feel overstuffed because an hour 45 minutes, 105 minutes. That is. I mean, that's to me, that can feel right. It could probably even be less, but you got to cut a lot of things out. I do appreciate how this film actually does harken back to characters. A lot of the characters here are the characters, not the actors, but the characters are featured from the original Halloween. And they actually did something like Anthony Michael Hall's character. And that's really, really cool. But I feel like, maybe you could have done with some less of them. Maybe you could have done some less time with them, redistribute the time a little bit better. Cause I guess we were really looking forward to the sheriff do something cool. And honestly, I feel like it was a bit of a wasted opportunity, as Steve mentioned earlier, that we didn't really focus on that mob mentality in an age where we have a pandemic. Obviously they didn't plan for this, cause this was written 2019, 2018, probably with the first movie as well.
2019 is probably when they wrote this.
They weren't planning an insurrection and a pandemic, but still, despite that, this film actually touches a lot of those same nerves surprisingly well. The phrase "evil dies tonight." It sounded epic the first time they say it. The first couple times the crowd says it, but then see, Joe, you're saying it got annoying. I think that was intentional, because you see it in real time.
True.
And evil dies tonight. Evil dies tonight. It degrades into chaos, and they kill innocent, innocently.
And it's an excuse to just cause chaos, destruction, and wind up costing innocent lives.
That part releases emotion, but in the wrong way, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that part of it, that part I didn't find annoying. It's just that like just how many times a character really does bring up what happened 40
also
years
true
ago. Like the evil dies tonight part, maybe that was like the wrong thing to throw in at the very end, because like no, that does serve a purpose, because like it does show like how like that saying really did become like the mob mentality and just drove them to literally become evil themselves. To which even like again like a weak script here, where like somebody literally, after an innocent person does get killed from this, someone literally goes, "Now where are the monsters?" I'm like, oh my god, come on.
Yeah, I felt that too.
I was like, Jesus. Yeah, it's just mainly the story and script. Not the story so much, but the script here I felt like really just made me roll my eyes a ton throughout it. But like other than that, though, I had a fun time. I mean, it's a good Halloween sequel, which I can't say for a lot of Halloween sequels. This is still a good time that I think like people should go to the theaters and see it. Or I even think it is worth the $5 a month to stream on Peacock. Honestly, if you want to stay home for Halloween and watch this movie, it's a great deal.
Absolutely. And I mean, I like this thing a lot. And I had a cool down period kind of afterwards before I wrote my review. So I got to think about it a little bit more. And I would piggyback off of Joe's point about how I feel like, especially when you compare it to the 2018 Halloween, it lacks a lot of balance when you compare, because it's Haddonfield now is a playground. It's not so hyper focused on Lori, Karen, and Allison. And which is good, because I didn't want the same movie again. That's why I'm not brokenhearted that Lori wasn't the focal point. I didn't want the same movie again, especially for what's only going to be a trilogy, at least with this crew involved. However, though, is that rewatching the 2018 movie, I just really was impressed by that movie, just in general, just how it didn't try to reinvent the wheel. And some people complained about that, but it didn't need to reinvent the wheel. It wanted to be a good quality slasher movie, and I think it was. The one thing that this movie did lack, though, was my boy Julian from the original, the kid that is babysit. And again, Dom doesn't know what we're talking about here. There was a kid in the original movie,
though, was good, but damn, I would have loved for him to show up.
I wish I could find his name on the cuff, but he was this kid named Julian, and he's so funny. It's like his babysitter's watching him, and I forgot how funny this scene is. His babysitter's watching him, and they're like watching the news and stuff, and then she goes, "You need to get to bed." And Julian's sitting on the couch, and he goes, "You're the worst babysitter ever. I'm sitting at home clipping my nasty ass toenails." That kid was great, just really good. I wish, and he's briefly in here. He's on the TV. He's on the TV during a newscast very briefly in this movie. But outside of that, though, and this kind of happens with these movies that are kind of structured like this, like an anthology in so many ways, I think it inevitably, the barrage of characters here and the ongoing plot lines does catch up with the movie. Like you find yourself really invested in one plot thread, and then an abrupt cut sends you halfway across town to a whole other unfolding plot line, and the cycle repeats. Forward to it next year when I will revisit this and the 2018 movie again ahead of Halloween Ends. H2, Halloween 2, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, that merited a second viewing for different reasons, though. But in the home stretch of Sleepless with Steve, I'll go ahead and give my rating. I give this a strong 3 out of 4 stars, the exact same rating I gave the 2018 Halloween. I'm very, very pleased with what Green, McBride, and Scott teams have done with this series so far in resurrecting it. Not so much, not like Zombie reworking the mythology, but expanding upon it. And I think that's where they really shine. They've come to this with a vision and a lot of blood, and I can't wait for next year when Halloween ends, because I think what I'm going to wind up doing too is going back and rewatching and reviewing and reviewing all of the Halloween movies, at least up into H2. I'll watch these other two. I'll watch this 2018 one and Kills as well, again ahead of Ends. But like as far as reviews go, I need to publish reviews on Halloween 07 and Halloween 2.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to do that next summer or next fall. We'll see.
For sure. Next? 3 out of 4 stars for me as well. I am no horror aficionado, but man, I had fun in this sense. If this is what slashers are like, I will gladly take it. I have a feeling pound for pound it's not.
Time to get Dom caught up on Scream.
But this was fun, and the undercurrents of that mob mentality, the town with PTSD, and handling it in the worst way possible that only results in more damage, I thought was a beautiful angle that really takes the slasher genre to a different direction. And it was really cool. Obviously some messiness with the script and even the plot, and that ending had me going, okay, cool, I guess. But whatever. I don't know enough about this franchise to really know if that was legit or cheap, but whatever, dude. But yeah, it's easy 3 out of 4 for me.
Joe, send us home.
For me, I mean, the movie, as much fun as I did have with the movie, it does feel like a middle chapter to a great story. And I am looking forward to Halloween Ends, because I do kind of agree with Dom. The ending is a bit cheap, but like it does have me excited for what the next chapter is. This whole conclusion to a trilogy that David Gordon Green and Danny McBride have like been basically just chaperoning and like guiding this entire time, which is great. I'm glad we've had the same creative team for all 3 films. That being said, yeah, the script is weak, and just like I felt like it was just lacking at times, and like it could have been honestly trimmed down a few minutes too. For me though, I still think the kills are great. It's a fun slasher movie. And I really do love that the Halloween movies are now getting like Bond-esque openings with pumpkins. Like, I think that's so much fun to see now at the beginning of these movies. With the last one with like Michael Myers is returning, so the pumpkin's coming back to life, and this one it's like pumpkins are on fire and everything, and symbolizing how many people are probably gonna die in this movie. For me though, it is 2.5 out of 3 stars. 4 stars. Definitely check it out on Peacock, or go to the theaters if you're looking to have that fun Halloween or just horror movie experience.
Yeah, it was really nice to see this in a pretty decently packed theater on a Friday night, and then come out and have it be like 60 degrees. Yeah. Like, it was just really fitting.
Oh, we had fog by my house too, so it just set the tone perfectly.
That's beautiful. You love to see it, man. I love that. Anyway, we'll wrap up the show here a tad early, but we'll wrap up review of a little movie called Dune next week. And honestly, I think the bulk of the show, we'll keep tabs on the IATSE situation too. But I also think that we're going to probably have to have a story about Dune's box office performance next week. Because I think there's a lot riding on how Dune is going to perform at the box office that has me and a lot of other folks, and I assume these 2 gentlemen right here, curious as well. So we're going to keep tabs on that whole situation, as well as watch and review Dune, which I am really looking forward to, and I'm normally not a sci-fi guy.
Have you guys read the book? Because I managed to read it this past year during the pandemic, and a little bit.
I know you did. Yeah. I've not. I've seen the original '84 movie, and that's about. And I've read a bit about it, but that's about it.
Well, let me just say too, I am in favor of this movie doing so good, because I would love for them to conclude the story. Because if it's gonna end where I think it's gonna end based on the book, I would love them to actually be able to finish it.
Yeah, I think with the way they split this book, I think it's going to be a real artistic, creative blow if this thing doesn't get a follow. Yeah. Like, so I'm worried about that, and I bet Denis Villeneuve is worried about it as well, because he's lucky to have gotten this after Blade Runner 2049 didn't do very well. He's really lucky, and I love Villeneuve. I'd say give Villeneuve all the money in the world. I don't care. Yeah. But at the same time, though, after the way Blade Runner 2049 performed, you're making another niche 9-figure budget sci-fi movie over here. You know, like that I think, was it Kubrick who called it unfilmable? There was one big director who once called it unfilmable.
I think it was Kubrick. It was
that's that
Kubrick
though for Sleepless with Steve on your Wednesday evening. One of them called it unfilmable.
Yeah.
But we got that review, and then also coming up the end of the month, or I think by then it's going to be. I think by then it might be November. I think it'll be November by then. So we got Dune next week. The following week, we've got Army of Thieves, the sequel to Army of the Dead. That comes out on Halloween. I believe it comes out Halloween. Army of Thieves. Either that or October 29th. Either way, we'll be reviewing it. That's our show. Back next week with a highly anticipated review of the movie Dune. It's Sleepless with Steve, live and in living color every Wednesday evening at 6:30 Central Time. Highlights will be posted on this very YouTube channel on which you are viewing the show right now. For Dominic Guanzon, Joe Viso, and yours truly, this has been Sleepless with Steve.